Thanks for joining us on Tandem Radio for a very special segment, By Design, focused on helping you understand how God designed you so that you may be healthy and productive in fulfilling God's purposes in your life for many years to come. Now let's join our host, health expert and public speaker, Dr. James Prudian.
Welcome to the By Design radio program. My name is Dr. James Prudian of Prudian Healthcare and PrudianHealthcare.com, where health literacy is the key to longevity. And as long as God has us on this side of eternity, my show is designed to educate you and your families to help you feel better, function better, and live as many quality disease-free years as possible. Today's show is going to be a topical show. We're coming to the end of the year, so I figured I'd close out the year with the last 3 weeks of the year on a topic, as opposed to a foundation. We'll begin the new year with a couple of new foundational principles. One is going to be nutrition, which is going to be probably a 5 or 6 part series. And then we're going to go into the physical side, posture and pain, and why Americans are stricken with so much pain. And that'll be probably around 5 or 6 weeks as well. But I didn't want to start a new foundation towards the end of the year. I wanted to really dig into my public health background. And lately I've been writing and I've actually been lecturing in the new healthcare model. What would a new healthcare model actually look like? If we started from scratch and we realized that the healthcare system is fundamentally broken on a lot of levels, not that it doesn't work, not that there aren't exceptional doctors and providers out there that are saving people's lives by the grace of God, but that the actual system is costing us so much money, not just in dollars, but in human life. The amount of mistakes and lost life due to the current system is something that has been written about and has been explored for decades now. But the boiling point or the tipping point is really here. Well, we're gonna take a few weeks here and start talking about, and feel free to submit questions to me through PrudianHealthcare.com. I will go over questions, on the show. If you guys submit them, I'd love to answer them. So, with looking at, the perspective of taking the system apart and starting from scratch, more or less, I think it starts with redefining a lot of the words that we're so used to using. So, before we get going, Luke 1:37, for with God nothing is impossible. So, let's take today's show and really rely upon God's vision, God's purpose for us, and to say, well, how do we take back our health? What has happened with this system that has costed us so dearly, and why are so many of us so sick? Let's take the company Apple for a second. When I watch TV or go online and I see an Apple advertisement, one thing that really steps me back is how simple Apple's advertising is. They want the user to feel comfortable that if you buy one of their devices, this thing is very simple to use. Healthcare should not be so complicated. What I mean by that is there's some very simple principles that we could all be doing in our lives every day to help promote the focus, the goal, which is feel better, function better, and live as many quality disease-free years as possible. Obviously understanding tragedy and trauma exist in our lives. But if we're fortunate enough to avoid them, how do we make the right decisions? So all the double-blind studies are in. And I think we need to stop sort of making the extra-sized sodas a joke on TV and really realize that those sodas are impacting the health of our children and ourselves. So the question I have for you is, we have the right to drink as much soda as we want, but is it right? We have the right to eat fast food every day of our lives, but is it right? So this new healthcare model starts with us. We are the answer. We must start asking ourselves questions about, just because we have the right, does it make it right? So I know, for instance, that if I took one of my 5 children and sent them out to a candy store and had the choice between giving them $5 or $100, I'm going to give them $5 because at their age, they may not be able to make the decisions not to spend $100 on candy. So where we're exploring a new healthcare model, the decisions that we make as adults in our lives, from a nutritional and a physical and a psychological perspective will impact the very system that we're all taking part of, which is healthcare. So we all know that fast food, high stress, and lack of exercise is not good for us, it's bad for us. It's basically your call. Do you out there want the ability to feel better, to function better, and to try to live as many quality disease-free years as possible, avoiding those chronic illnesses that are plaguing us as a society? So if we rely upon, let's say, the government, who is, let's say they're going to set rations on soda or fast food restaurants, or the toxins that are in our environment, are we really going to sit back and wait for someone else to do it for us? It's our lives and our families. So I'm throwing it out there on the table that this was a question I asked myself when I was 19 years old, and I wasn't a healthy guy at all. From the perspective of not really having a disease, but I wasn't very healthy. I asked myself, why am I drinking all of this soda? And the first thing I did in my road to good health was to just stop drinking soda. It's that toxic and that bad for us. So that was just a little story of my own life, which is we have to start somewhere. So let's stop relying upon others who are going to make those decisions for us, and let's become better educated, since, as we said in this program, health literacy is the key to longevity. So being more literate in our subject matter is what's key. Because we know that sugar and starch and bad oils, for instance, along with all of the toxins that we're using, and basically poison to our body. So a woman, for instance, takes such good care of herself while she's pregnant. Why? Because, innately, by that power given to us by God, a woman knows that she's protecting a child and, of course, herself. So if she's a smoker, she gives up smoking. If she drinks alcohol, she stops drinking alcohol. She takes better care of herself, gets more rest. All of the various things that the OBGYNs are telling that woman, or other practitioners are telling that gal while she's pregnant. Yet that same woman will take her child to a fast food restaurant when the child's 2 or 3 years old and feed that child toxic food. That always is a question. Whenever I'm out and about and I'm looking around, I say to myself, that woman would have never, ever let a toxic substance next to that baby while she was carrying. Yet outside the womb, somehow we're able to make these decisions to take our children and to basically feed them toxins. So I'm throwing that out there as maybe an eye-opener as we end this year. So some of our behaviors start to change. To give you an example of just what obesity is doing us, recently a UN study came out where there are more obese people in this world than those suffering from hunger. So we have 925 million people suffer from hunger, yet 1.5 billion are overweight or obese. And I think that, just using these very simple tools as examples in education hopefully create an enlightenment. I know you guys aren't digging through biochemistry textbooks throughout your week, nor are you reading health journals and science journals for the latest and greatest information. And my show has been designed to try to deliver real sensible, eye-opening statistics and solutions for you and your families. So if we don't change at home from a grassroots perspective, that's women, I should just say husbands, wives, our moms, dads out there who are taking care of their children, the communities in which we're all part of, our churches, we must begin to take back our health one family at a time. This is not going to come from the top down. We have to understand the impact of the decisions we make every day and how it is affecting us and our children. Because the decisions we're making every day, I'm not blaming the people who are listening to me. The decisions we're making every day have been handed to us by a organization, whether it be the food companies, whether it be the government. We're given not a lot of choice out there. We're fed a lot of starch and sugar. We live in a stressful environment, or we choose to live in a stressful environment. And exercise is typically handed down to us by people who are, at a gym, maybe don't know the background of a person and not giving the best advice. So one of the things that we're going to start doing is if you guys are really into this, now you're saying to yourself, this makes sense. I'm into this new healthcare model that he's describing. First of all, negative people make positive people sick. So if you're going to make positive changes to your life, let's start moving away from the naysayers, the aunt who has thyroid problems, who's telling you there's no way you're ever going to change. Let's try to get away from those naysayers, particularly when you're going to start a health journal, which I can't tell you how good advice this is. Open up a health journal and start writing things down. Start creating a journal for yourself to take back your health. And let's kind of, those negative people are there in our lives. And one of the things we're going to start doing is I want you all to start thinking about nutrient-dense foods. Now, let's give you an example of what a nutrient-dense food is. And look at how easy this is. You guys aren't scientists. Maybe I'm talking to a group of people who have no background in nutrition or nutrition ecology. And I said, you have the choice between eating organic broccoli or white bread. Yes, I paused for a second to let you think about it. Well, I'm sure 100 out of 100 people said, well, of course, broccoli is more nutritious than white bread. It's nutrient rich. So starting this week, you guys are going to be walking around your supermarkets and your homes looking at the foods that you're consuming. And we're going to start next week's show with hopefully you eating more nutrient-dense foods. And I'm going to start next week's show with this very subject matter. What are nutrient-dense foods and what are the worst nutrient-dense foods that you could be eating? We're going to continue this conversation probably for the next 2 weeks. Hopefully you're going to stay with me on this one because I think we should end this year and start the new year by creating this new healthcare model that's right for each one of us to take back our health. And thank you so much for listening to the By Design radio program. I thank you for joining me, Dr. James Prudian, for this episode. If you'd like any more information on me, please go to prudianhealthcare.com and feel free to submit any questions for me in the show. Keep your questions brief. God bless you this upcoming week, and God bless you and your families.
You've been listening to By Design with Dr. James Prudian of Prudian Healthcare. To learn more, visit us at tandemradio.com, that's tandemradio.com, or on Facebook. And don't forget to email us with your questions. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, hope you have a healthy week, and we look forward to you joining us next time for more fantastic insights from Dr. James Prudian on By Design, a special production of Tandem Radio.